Caring is the new currency, as emphasized by CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. Welcome to the first webinar of Wellbeing.ai. We have a panel of great professionals that will be discussing the meaning and importance of well-being at work. We will touch upon many hot topics in HR, like talent acquisition and retention, employer branding, employee engagement and empowerment, hybrid working, and of course, how technology can help. We hope you will enjoy the webinar and especially that you will find it very insightful. I will now invite our panelists to introduce themselves.
Yes, good morning, Nicolaus and everybody. My name is Raf de Vos. I'm the head of people and organization of a Brussels-based knowledge and technology enterprise. It's called a university, de Vrije Universiteit Brussel.
Yes, hello everybody. So my name is Kathleen van der Kerkhoven. I work at Proximus. I'm in charge of people and organization development, which contains everything that has to do with learning, talent, well-being, employee engagement, culture and leadership development.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alexandra Mager. I work for a company called Owens & Minor Hilliard. It's a global healthcare services company. And we're based, our EMEA headquarters is based in Diegem, and I head up the HR and facilities departments.
Hello, everybody. I'm Anne de Rijk. And within Inetum Riel Dolmen, I'm responsible for the people part, everything that's related to people. So HR, internal communication, facilities, prevention, and of course also the part well-being in there.
Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick de Pauw. I'm CEO of Social Cedar, a Belgian scale-up doing business internationally with 250 organizations, and everything we do is around building employee engagement and employee advocacy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It's so exciting. But let's start. So first question goes to Raf. Raf, how do you see the emerging role of well-being at work, especially in relation to talent acquisition and retention?
Well-being in our companies is not a new thing in Belgium. We started already with a lot of legislative initiatives in the 90s and the years 2000. And the last thing that we changed the legislation on well-being in 2014 with a high impact on well-being, psychosocial well-being, and not only being well with substances and being in a nice environment. So it came from a nice to have to now a must have according to legislation. But I think companies didn't record it very well that it's very important to the future to focus on that psychosocial well-being. And we emerged now to a situation where it's not a nice to have anymore, but a must have. And not only because of legislation, but because our customers, our future employees are related to well-being. And so a few years ago, they asked, can I have a stable wage? Can I have a stable position? Can I have a group pension? Now, young people that we engage, and we engage 350 people a year, they are asking, how can I be happy in your company? In some way or another. Can I leave within 2-3 years to have a sabbatical and have a trip around the world? Can I do this? Can I do that? And that's more important than the hard HR things that they asked for a few years ago. So we're going from a nice to have to, from HR's perspective, must have to attract personnel in the future. And the COVID pandemic, I mean, it was not a changer. It was not a game changer. It was only a catalyst that we were really, if you see the labor market now, to get people into your company, you really have to do your best to get the best ones in your house.
Raf, thank you so much for this insightful answer. Continuing the same chain of thought, Patrick, how do you see well-being playing a role in employer branding, and especially in employees within companies embracing a role of an ambassador outside the company?
I completely, first of all, agree what Raf says, because at this moment, what we see is companies, we say they have to stand out from the crowd. You have to be different, meaning you have to be more than just a money machine. There's lots of culture involved. There's a future. There's corporate social responsibility in there. But why is well-being very important is because all this can attract new talent, but you also need people to talk about it. If nobody talks about it, you can have lots of stories inside and you can have lots of insights in your company and values, but if nobody knows it, it's still a problem. And this is at this moment also it's not easy, because with remote working, it's already much more difficult to get it towards your co-workers. They have to already know it. That's the first challenge. And the second challenge is, how can I spread this news? And there, the concept of ambassadors is very important. Why? Because we're all human beings and we listen to other human beings. I mean, coworker listens more to another coworker than to the boss. That's the first thing. But the friends listen more to the people working in a company. So it's the cheapest way to get your message around, specifically in these times, again, where everybody is spending hours before their screen on social media because you're working from home. This is just a very important thing to stand out from the crowd, to attract and to be authentic.
Thank you, Patrick. So you really see with your everyday work that companies with higher well-being between their employees have also higher ambassadors rates, with people talking outside the company in a very positive manner about the company.
Absolutely. Well-being is one of the elements, but I think one of the crucial elements in being happy, and being happy is getting ready to become your ambassador. So the hygiene, internal hygiene of companies is very important, but again, a big challenge these days with COVID and remote working.
Excellent, thank you so much. And actually, you connect me very well with the next question for Kathleen. Kathleen, indeed, as Patrick said, we live in very challenging times where the mode of working has changed to more a hybrid model. Now, keeping employees happy and engaged in this hybrid model has become so important. So how you in Proximus deal with all this, having, of course, well-being also in mind?
Well, actually, at Proximus, we see the hybrid working really as a possibility to give more options for our employees to organize their lives as they want to live. It's really a possibility to have more balanced life. And so it's really crucial for us to raise the possibilities to be flexible, to raise autonomy. So we've also evolved the number of days of home working from 2 days to 3 days. So normally after COVID restrictions, it should be possible to work 3 days per week at home. And we really want to insist on the smart working principle, where employees can decide for which kinds of activities they come to the office and for which kind of activities they prefer to stay at home. So for us, actually, the hybrid working is really part of our well-being vision and approach. And we also insist a lot on the concept of asynchronous working. We are, as all of us, I think, really confronted with a lot of meetings and a very strong meeting culture, but we really want to evolve that towards the principle of not everybody always has to work on the same thing on the same moment. And there, of course, also technology is an important enabler. So sharing documents, sharing information instead of doing that always in meetings is a very important one in there. On the other hand, the aspect of connection and staying connected with the organization is also very important. So already during COVID, of course, we insisted a lot on staying connected with our employees. When welcoming back our employees at the office, it was very important to have a warm welcome. But on the other hand, we also want to create valuable moments when employees come back to the office to really stay connected with their team. And so for us, the team is really the crucial enabler for bringing people back to the office and staying connected with the employees at work.
Thank you so much. It's already obvious that Proximus takes a very rich and multidimensional approach to the issue. And if I'm correct, Proximus is having a 3-tier approach of working, remote working, regional centers, and headquarters, correct? What is your experience of these different types? So it's not just hybrid work or from home or office. It's actually more dynamic than that. What has been your experience up to now with this?
Actually, so it even creates more options and more possibilities for people. Now in the new way of working, or the after COVID period, we haven't been able to test that really profoundly, because we were not able to come back to the office since a very long time. But it's really also about giving possibilities. And of course, what is a crucial element in the regional working is the public transport, is that people don't have to travel a lot. And also it enables them sometimes to work a bit offsite with their team without having to come all together in the building. So it really creates other opportunities and options again for our employees to decide where they want to work.
Fantastic. Choice seems to be a central theme in dealing with the challenging times and improving well-being. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Kathleen. So, Alexandra, for so many decades, companies have been extremely passionate to be customer-centric, but mostly involving external customers. However, in your company, customer centricity does not mean only external customer, but also the internal customer. So within these challenging times, how do you make sure that your internal customers are happy and that their well-being is prioritized?
So last spring, we launched an EMEA-wide health and well-being program. And we have teammates a little bit spread all across our region. So the EMEA region, so we have teammates in Belgium, in Ireland. And then the commercial team is also spread across the region, as I said. We're currently in 12 different countries of EMEA. And we decided to develop and launch a program that is actually, that offers, that's focused on connection, that's focused on health and mental well-being. And, even before COVID, we had quite some remote workers, as I said. But, this pandemic has actually shown us that there's actually a bigger need for connection, and that enabled us to do this program quite well. So the program, what we call Joy, we call it the Joy program, is it's focused on different things. We offer low threshold activities, and therefore that also enables connection. And I think what Kathleen and Patrick also what they've mentioned, connection is very, very important for us. So I'm very proud, because this is not really an HR program. It has been a program that was set up with different departments and is cross-departmental, and it's definitely cross-country. So over the last couple of months, we've had various workshops, such as ergonomics, sleep, productivity, and also referring back to ambassadors, because it's not only the company, but it's also our teammates that make a huge difference in this program. We had the pleasure to work with a network of ambassadors that also have done team-led initiatives, such as sessions like yoga, herbal remedies, and even padel sessions. And I think the other element that also exists for this program is the interactive health app. So it's an app where we can challenge each other to go out for a walk during having breaks with each other, and I think it that even encourages more connection throughout the company. I think it's a great program. It gamifies, and definitely it encourages people to to share activities, to share experiences with each other, and I think our program will definitely evolve over time, as well as the needs of our teammates, because this pandemic times they evolve drastic measures, but they also involve a lot of personal situations. And what we try to do within our company is making sure that we offer benefits and activities that cater to all our teammates during very, very difficult times.
Alexandra, thank you so much. I have to admit that Joy is one of the best brand names for well-being programs I've heard up to now. So well done on this. It's clear that in our conversation, it has been a central theme that well-being is now being taken seriously by globalists, not only Belgium regionally, but also globally. And more companies engage in well-being programs, nicely branded as Joy, as Alexandra said. So, Anne, well-being is here to stay, but obviously is not as simple. It's not as simple to implement it as maybe it sounds. What do you think are the challenges in focusing and implementing well-being programs, and especially what do you see the role of technology in helping to improve well-being at work?
Well, I think it is true that COVID has put a lot of pressure on businesses, companies, on people in the businesses, but also on their private lives. So helping them to find the right balance is crucial. But I think on the other hand, COVID has also speeded up the process that was already taking place before COVID. For us, for instance, the employee centricity is a key pillar in our strategy, next to business, of course, the customer centricity, and next to technology, because that's the core of our company. But seeing that it's difficult, more and more difficult to attract people, more and more difficult to find this balance, we also conducted a survey during the lockdowns to see what do our people need and how can we support them. And next to an extended well-being program that we rolled out with our external partner, IDW, to support them in their mental health, etc. We also saw that people needed a combination of different workplaces. So we decided not to go for home working. We said we are going for location-independent work. We don't want to put a maximum on home working or days at work. We leave the choice to the people as much as possible. Also, of course, in discussion with our customers, very important player in this story, and to have them choose wherever they want to work and wherever they feel most comfortable to do so, because output is important, not time spent, not the location where they do it. Next to that, we also launched FlexTime in September for all our employees, which means we want a flexible approach of work time. We want our people to be themselves responsible for achieving an average working time over a given period, also if with the consent of the customer, of course. So the traditional 9 to 5 is not the only option. For us, in that way, it doesn't exist anymore. People can work some days more, other days less. They can, for instance, stop working between 4 and 6, so they can be busy with their kids, and afterwards take up work again. So it's also a way to find a better balance between professional and personal life. Of course, this also demands other technologies and other tools to be able to have access to information, no matter where you are, no matter any time. And it asks also another way of monitoring. And that is where technology is evolving and plays a very important role in this.
And thank you so much for this insightful answer. So, Patrick, if technology is playing an important role, and especially an empowering role, how do you see HR adapting to new technologies? Now, your role as a CEO of Social Seeder has you traveling all around the world and meeting HR departments with the need of embracing new ideas, embracing new technologies in order to solve old and new problems. So can you share with us some examples of how HR can embrace and adapt to new technologies?
It's what I often say, HR is now evolving, and also specifically due COVID, which is an accelerator into the use of more and more technology. We see that everywhere in the world. It's what happened. I always say it's basically what happened 15 years ago at the marketing department, where suddenly everybody was going to start working with different tool sets. This is what you see today in HR. So they have to. The first thing that already happened, by the way, is that some of the companies that still had this wall between I have a computer, but I cannot go on social media because I don't trust my colleagues. That wall is slowly, or not slowly, with COVID, is rapidly falling down. Thank you, I would say, because perhaps there were some reasons, but the biggest reason is I don't trust my coworkers. If you don't trust your coworkers, there's already the biggest problem. If you want well-being, the first thing you have to do is to have some basic trust in your coworkers. That's one thing. Secondly, because of remote working, obviously technology plays much more. The role of technology becomes much more important. There's no coffee corner anymore where you can have a sentiment of are people happy or not. So you have to do it in a different way. And so what we see now is that HR departments, they are more and more looking at solutions that give a broader view of what is going on in my company. Can I feel somewhere where there is a problem? Can I, what kind of different tool sets do I have, do exist in order to get this feedback in a continuous, automatic, privacy also important, obviously, a compliant GDPR way. And HR tech is therefore one of the fastest growing technologies in the world. So companies everywhere in the world are embracing it right now. There's a second reason why they also embrace it, obviously, and also HR is because it's not only anymore about, and I just want to mention this, it's not only anymore about the well-being of your coworkers, it's also about the well-being of the planet more and more. So HR, even there, plays a really important role because we see everywhere in the world, mostly coming from top, obviously, it's a strategic decision, but companies, they are really working on the well-being. They try to work on the well-being of their coworkers, which is similar to the well-being of the coworkers when they go home, about mobility, diversity, corporate social responsibilities, outgrowing the company even. But also there you need technology. So yes, plays an important role.
I'd like to pick in, Nicolaus, in that matter, because if we listen to everybody, we don't have engagement programs for our employee. We have 4,000 employees, so that means you need a program for your 4,000 employees. We have professors of 60 years old who still live at home. I mean, if I come to them with we're going to do yoga sessions and things like that, you get a big eye roll like just go away and stay in your office. So my question is then, how can I help you? And then you come with less paperwork, less administration, less red tape, and so you have a diversity in your helping people to get happy at work that is immense now. And then the huge problem is, and I don't want to offend anyone, but the technology that I need right now is not on the market. It doesn't exist. Whatever you go for what program also, you get into really problems that the thing that you want to do now is not on the market because they're behind. Of course, there are a lot of technical companies who do what they do in their niche, but what I really want as a customer, it's not in the market. So that's why I'm looking at new technologies with real AI, because everybody's talking about AI now, and then we think that if we have a computer that it does AI. No, it's something completely different, I think. And big data, and how do you confront that with regulations on privacy, on, for instance, a personal anecdote. I have diabetes, so everybody knows that because I have an insulin pump, no problem. But the moment I will know that my company is going to use the fact that I'm a diabetes patient to get in their system with HR roles and things, then I get scared. And so the question is, how can we embrace new technology that is very intruding in our lives? Next level DNA maybe. If you look at new emerging technologies, how are we going to use it in a fair way that my coworkers say, yes, it's okay to use that data, and I trust you that you will use it in a fair way. And this is there's a big gap, and that was my point, between what technology is offering now to me as a customer and what I need as an employer.
Raf, thank you so much for this. Yes, of
can
course.
Can I pick up on that? Because, Raf, that is exactly our problem as well, and I think a problem of a lot of companies these days. And what we are trying to make the first steps, and as always with these new things, it's the first step. So we're working on an employee experience platform that we want to launch next year, which brings together, simplifies, for instance, all tools that are necessary for one person to work and digitalize a maximum of actions he needs to do. So that is already seen and done. It's unburden your employees so that they can focus on other tasks they find more useful, that makes them more happy. But we also want to have the system proactively provide them with information, with things to do based on their preferences that they indicate, based on the things they need that they indicate. So there is an action from them coming and then a push from the system, the platform coming. What is possible, for instance, push trainings according to their profile, or for instance, detect that they haven't taken any holidays in a long time, so remind them of, hey, a break is necessary for the well-being of our people. So this is something we're working on. Not perfect, as you say, Raf, not as much elaborated already, but I think it's necessary to take these first steps and show that we're evolving that way.
So absolutely, and what I love about these last points is that it looks like well-being having two big dimensions. The one dimension is a multi-stakeholder one, something that Patrick mentioned, which means that it's, of course, the well-being of our employees, but not only. Is the well-being of the environment, is well-being of the communities we operate with is the well-being of our customers, is well-being of our providers. So it's a holistic view of the well-being. But on the other hand, something that Raf and Anne mentioned is also very personal, because what exactly means or improves well-being for one person might not be for the other. So measurement and the diagnostics of well-being, by applying new technology that Raf said, maybe the solutions are not here, but Raf, we assure you that with wellbeing.ai, the solution is here. So I want to take this opportunity and go back to Alexandra and ask her, from all these discussions that we have, it's very clear that HR is evolving. And it's evolving very fast, both because of new technologies, but also the challenging times and the new pressures to the department and the system that we're experiencing. So does this evolution need to involve well-being and the technology to embrace it? What do you think?
Yes, most definitely. I think I've been in the HR business for over 20 years, and that's a long time when you speak it out loud, right? I've seen definitely a big shift over the last couple of years, and I think the role of HR is evolving, but it's not only HR. You know, we can drive a lot of things, but I think it also depends on the rest of our teammates and as what we call our internal customers or our colleagues. And related to well-being is the fact that our full leadership team and our management team, they also play a very critical role in this, in the well-being part. You know, they are also the driving force behind it, and they need to walk the talk, you know. So if in terms of behavioral issues, if you know you want to not send emails anymore after you know, a specific time in the evening, if you want to make sure that you know you listen well to your teammates, then I think that requires some focus. Also, it starts with our people managers, you know, not only, you know, flexibility, adaptability, but also very inclusive leadership and behavior. And it's all about, you know, making sure that they stay connected with their teammates, making sure they pay attention to, you know, personal situations at home. So I think, you know, again, HR is evolving, but I think it also includes leadership and management to be involved as well. And then they all have a very critical role to play.
It's fascinating that you highlighted that we need to walk the talk, because studies from around the world shows that there is a disconnect, a gap between how employees feel, especially these challenging times, these unprecedented times we live in, and what management or sometimes HR professionals understand of the situation, plus how they respond to it. There is still this big gap that we need to bridge between reality and our response to this reality. So we have been talking about very important topics like connectivity, choice, flexibility, personalization, technology, and the changes we are experiencing. So I want to go to Kathleen and ask her, Kathleen, it's so obvious. I mean, somebody has to live under a rock not to have seen or experienced themselves that the workspace is changing. It's not only HR is changing because the workspace, whatever this entails, is really changing and evolving. So how do you see this evolution of the workspace and, of course, the role of well-being?
But actually, if you look at Proximus, you probably heard already that we have very concrete plans to refurbish our towers, which is, I think, a project that started already, or the idea started already before COVID, but of course now it has even become more important and a more actual topic. And there it is really about also reducing the individual workspace and creating places where people can come together to connect and to collaborate, to co-create with each other. And not only with employees, but as mentioned before, also the customer has really an important role to play in that. And we also really want to be more part of a broader community and really give a community feeling when people come into our buildings, because it's also crucial to stay connected with the world outside of Proximus. But then again, it's also here about finding the right balance, because it's never really black and white. So people will not come a full day for co-creation meetings and then work at home for individual meetings. And so when we look at now the coming back to the office, one element that we really remarked is that people were used to have their home office, which gives them a very comfortable feeling. So they come back to the office, they start having virtual meetings, they're sitting on open floors. And so there's really a lot of noise. And so there is also a need to have individual space and individual cockpits for people to have their virtual connection moments with other people. So, but nevertheless, very ambitious plans to really change the work space, to make it more inspirational also when it's about co-creating. So it's not only about having more meeting rooms, but it's also the look and feel of those meeting rooms that are really crucial. So do they really invite people to be creative, to inspire each other and to really co-create things together? But I also want to refer to what Alexandra is saying, because here I'm talking about the physical environment people are working in, but it really is closely connected to the cultural environment people are part of, because you can really have the most fantastic inspirational meeting rooms and so on. But if the leadership and the culture of the company don't really stimulate that creativity, that autonomy, flexibility, and so on, then it will never work. So for me, the well-being related to the environment is also related to the culture you have in your company. It's really about trusting people, as said before, and really create an environment where people are stimulated to take their own decisions and organize their work life themselves. So it's not just about the walls that you have in your office or you don't have in your office anymore.
So Kathleen, there is a tangible role of well-being with all the tools and the devices and the processes that we can intervene in order to improve well-being, but there is also an intangible element, which is culture, which is what brings us and binds us together. And thank you so much for mentioning this. Also, I have to say that the Proximus towers are so prominent in the Brussels skyline that whatever Proximus decides to do to evolve the workspace of these two towers will be an opinion leader, and I think will be a trailblazer in order for others to follow. I think there is a big interest at this moment in Belgium what Proximus will be doing with the tower. So thank you very much for sharing some ideas. Perfect. So thank you, Kathleen. Anne, there is this thing that we all even before the pandemic was so important in HR and leadership discussions, which is employee empowerment. And we know that we cannot have well-being if people do not feel empowered. We talked here about choices, about empowerment on my privacy and transparency, as Raf mentioned, and the flexibility and the personalization. So do you see the role of technology as empowering empowerment?
Yes. I must say these other ways of working make it also necessary to have other tools, other processes. People need tools, technology that enable them to work from anywhere at any time, as if they were in the office. So they need to be able to access information easily, but also in a protected way. They need to be able to communicate, to collaborate in an optimal way. They need to be able to connect with each other, as we already said, to strengthen a team spirit, which is a hell of a challenge in a remote world. So this requires also a set of guidelines and a framework that needs to be known by everybody. And that needs to be respected as well. But what it also needs is a change in management style, going from controlling to empowering. And we already said it. It's all about trust and autonomy. It's about trusting that your people know what to do, that at their level they take the right decisions, and that they have the autonomy to do so. It's about measuring quality, quantity of output, not necessarily time spent on it. But that also needs a big mindset shift. And Alexandra already spoke about this. The key layer in this is our people managers. And so it also requires a huge effort in informing, in training and accompanying them. And I think changing a mindset is something you don't do like that. It takes a lot of time. And I think nobody has la baguette magique, so the ultimate solution, so that everybody can apply it. Often people ask me, do you have do's and don'ts? What do we need to do? What can't we do? I don't have them. I think nobody has them. I think it all depends on the business you're in, on the profiles that are in your company, and especially what we already mentioned as well, on the company culture. So once again, there is no one size fits all. I also believe it is a journey that never stops. It is in constant evolution. Technologies will evolve and will support it. So it's an evolution that will never stop. And that's what makes it super interesting. Also super interesting to be in HR.
Exciting times then. So we wanted to finish with Raf, because Raf's role in HR is in a multidimensional organization as a university. So Raf, you have students in various levels, you have professors and academic staff, you have non-academic staff, you have external partners, you have the government. It's really a multidimensional organization. So how do you see the evolving role of HR, and especially how do you see technology used and empowering or further evolving this role? We already said that technology can be fantastic, but also there are many questions about technology. So from your standpoint, how do you see technology and HR going into the future?
First of all, maybe it's inappropriate, but we should embrace this crisis. I mean, we really should embrace it. Next to all the negative things, and we all got our share, even on a very personal level. But this crisis is forcing us to do things in another way. Two examples, we know in our scientific department what the impact is of CO2, too much CO2 on persons when they are in a small thing. I mean, it's very simple. I don't think that we ever thought about it as HR managers before COVID to put CO2 meters in our rooms. So we know already a lot of pieces of the puzzle, how we have to adapt our infrastructure to flex places, to how we do different. I mean, we don't want cubicles, then you get a very yes or no discussion about yes flex, no flex. It's about cubicles. And I mean, we have all the building blocks, I think, in our scientific departments in different universities, not only our university, and also in the big companies. But now we're forced to put them together. And when I said some minutes ago that we don't have the technology that I want, I was not very correct. I think that I don't have the right HR technology that I want, because I see that the technology exists. And one of the things that thrills me as an HR director, I mean, we're not somewhere hidden in the corner of the company anymore. We're really in the driving seat now. And as we speak, I get already messages from my rector through how we're going to react on the new measurements of the government. So it's a very thrilling experience. And we see that everybody is connected to do everything. For instance, it's not only about well-being technology, it's also about mobility. How come that Google and Facebook knows what I'm eating every day? When do my daughters get their periods? Really? But if I have to go to work, I have to go with my mobility scheme as today I'm going to take my car, tomorrow I'm going to take a bus, the next day I'm going to do an electric step and take another. And how come that technology is really outdated? How come? And so now is the time to get them together. And I think the mobility companies are already moving in a very fast direction. They know we have to change our mindset to the customer. And it's not so, the Belgian railways can't say anymore, you have to say thank you if we move you from one point to another point. Now they're in a situation when they know if they don't change, they just will fail and they will go broke, because people are not going to accept anymore that kind of solution. So I think that technology is not good or bad. It's how you use technology and the way you use it. And I think this is a thrilling time for HR departments in the driving seat of companies to change the happiness of our co-workers in general way, and that's what I want to end with, because we're a knowledge and technology company as a university. I know happiness, it's not a fluffy thing. I mean, it's about real science. What means that people say, I'm happy? Not with a survey of 100 questions. No, just real short surveys to know what is engagement. Because if you talk to, and I'm clear, if you ask for engagement, what it is, you get 12 answers from these on this table already. So what is engagement? What is working? What is evidence-based? And what is connected to practice-based HR? Because if you only work on evidence-based HR, we're not going to do anything anymore, because it's very complicated. But how's the connection? And there, I think there's a big role for universities in connection with real other companies who are profit-driven, and the science and technology sector to do it better for society. Because all the knowledge we have already for years on these issues is not in your boardrooms, and that's a shame. So we're now trying to change also how we talk to community. And for instance, we had a big we bought an HR system some years ago, and one of the first things I said to that big company, I'm not going to say the name because they're not a sponsor, but to them is this: we have to sit around the table with scientists and your people to move on to the next level, because this is nice what we have, but really it's all technology. You don't do what I'm going to ask. And this is a real challenge to the future, I think. And I hope that initiatives like this from wellbeing.ai are only a next step to obtain that objective.
Amazing, Raf. So technology and science is here. Let's put it in good use. Thank you so much, everyone. Anybody wants to add anything based on what we discussed? Are we good?
Where
Yes, please.
I have a quote that I want. I don't know.
Yes.
My rector is always telling us in board meetings, the future is a different country. They do things differently there. And this we really have to understand.
Fantastic.
It's really a revolution now in working environments. We don't get it yet, but I really think we're on a big shift of how we're going to live in the future and work.
Let's be fast and we all buy tickets to this country. Yes, Patrick.
Well, I just wanted to add, in the recent studies of Antwerp Management School and Deloitte, you see that there's an average engagement, whatever you call whatever the definition of engagement is, because we can discuss this, is between 15 and 20%. 15 and 20%, that means that there's like 80% of people that or they do not care or they are disengaged. And I think, and this is what we also see before, also when I was young, when you went to work for a bank, what were the main departments that played everything was sales and marketing. And HR, they were there just for the payroll. If you hear these figures, at this moment, it should just be the opposite. And it is becoming the opposite. HR is the most valuable asset you have. And this is what I feel every day. Every day, I feel the disruption in companies. How do I feel it? Because people leave. We always have different spokespersons. Other new people come in. They go away after a couple of months. There's so much discontinuity in companies right now. So this, for me, the well-being and call it engagement should be on top of every single company's priority list.
And obviously, based on the statistics that you mentioned, we are not doing something correct, and we need to embrace new ideas and do more and exchange opinions like we did today in order to make sure that we give to people what they should have, because we believe that it is a basic human right, somebody to have well-being in the place that they work. As Raf started saying in his first answer, it's not a luxury, it's a very central core thing of who you are as a person. Thank you so much. As our exceptional panelists explained, well-being at work is not a good-to-have feature. It is a must-have one. Well-being is influencing, and it's influenced by everything we do in HR, from talent acquisition to employer branding and to employee engagement alike. It is time to realize and to embrace the fact that companies are their employees. We live in unprecedented times. The workplace is redefined. Employers are facing the great resignation, where 6% of employees are quitting their jobs. So it is more important than ever that you focus and stay in touch with your employees and their well-being to protect your company growth. It is our mission and it is our responsibility to utilize latest technology and robust science in order to empower people to improve their mental and emotional states and to enjoy their work life to the fullest. People deserve it and companies need it. You can visit our website, wellbeing.ai, for more. And until next time, take good care of your and your people's well-being. Goodbye.